right. Hmm, decent weather the last couple days. Just more of the same. Waiting around on potential job offers and interviews, and still got to take care of this. Now I got to go see a. I got to go back to medical group and get a referral to go see a specialist to get this weird tissue thing taken care of, and maybe the rest of the nail removed. Been great if urgent care had just done it, like I said, but whatever. Now we're on 5 weeks of this mess. Okay, enough about that. So, the first of a few videos today. I'm gonna start off. I was thinking more on the cinematic side lately. I jumped ahead to some of the W's and some of the T's in my record collection, and there was a few scores I did not play before. One of them is this one's not really a score per se, but it could be Jeff Wayne's musical version of the War of the Worlds. This is fantastic cinematic prog and story. Think the Orson Welles radio play, but instead you've got four sides of vinyl, 23 to 28 minutes aside. Richard Burton is the journalist narrator. The of the cast who comes in as the actors in the storylines, the the priest played by Phil Lynott. The late Thin Lizzy, of course. Well, no, that's not true. Thin Lizzy's still going, but they're called Black Star Writers, and that's how they put out new albums. Uh, Phil Lynott almost steals the whole damn thing from everybody. He brings you that believable, that grit, that passion, the emotion, the man angry and losing his mind at the Martian invasion. What's cool is I'll show you the gate. I'll show you the back. It's got Justin Hayward, of course, Moody Blues, and when he sings, you know it's Justin Hayward. Painting on the inside of the gatefold. Everybody that's on this. Let's see. Joe Partridge, Chris Thompson, uh, David Essex. He was part of Godspell, and of course his buddy Jeff Wayne did the music for that. Julie Covington is on here as well, and like I said, the incomparable Richard Burton, and you can't miss his voice, even if you don't watch a lot of his movies. If you ever seen the 1984 adaptation of 1984, you know who he is. He's John Hurt's torturer, of course. In the end, but what's cool is mine's from '78. I think this is a first press. Here's the actual booklet, survived in full with the story, the paintings, the reading it like a play with everyone getting their lines. It's this is it's a little weird, but this is a prog epic. It's completely cinematic in scope. I hate that it's auto coupled, but you know that was the style of the time for the majority of it. The character Phil Lynott playing there as the priest. Obviously, you know what's going to happen to him. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to guess too much. The almost Metropolis like dream of building a city miles and miles underground to survive the Martians. And then, of course, the inevitable end. I really want to go watch the '50s version. I should get that Blu-ray of it from Criterion because it's July and it's got that damn Barnes and Noble sale going. The only problem I have is I got when they did the old DVD HD restoration of it, they took away all the smoke and everything, so you actually see the clear industrial fishing line holding up the silver models, and I'm like, you 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 did too far. You leave some of the smoke in the green so you can hide through the effect. But whatever, that's a classic either way. And someone was nice enough back then to put these in the polyline sleeves in the '80s. So whoever's old enough to remember these, audio groomed by Empire with the number of play counts, any little special features. Really cool. I bought this. I want to say during COVID, and I put it downstairs and I never played it. So since I'm going through, uh, you know, transcribing and making a collection note in a Discogs uh, collection library. I just said, okay, let's give this a spin. I'm kind of in the mood. And what got me in the mood, so it's not a it's not a full soundtrack esque film score, but what what got me in that mode was a couple of other soundtracks I had picked up around. Let's see, this one's 2022, and the other one I got these both. I want to say within 2-3 months of each other. First off, a promo copy of Giorgio Moroder's score to Midnight Express. I said John Hurt a second ago. John Hurt in here is the longtime captive in the Turkish prison who's, you know, borderline bit of a hippie, but not really a hippie. Uh, Actor Brad Davis. Then there's the real guy, Billy Hayes, who the story's based on. This was Randy Quaid, of course. This movie, oh, it's an Oliver Stone film. Should have known. Or at least the screenplay was Oliver Stone. He was taken off at that point doing rewrites. This is one of those films that you see, and even if it's a 2 hour film, I think it was 2.5. Uh, Not only just the film, the drama, the emotion, the loss of identity, and the existential will to live, but still finding a way to pursue and occasionally right some wrongs along the way. This stays with you, and also Moroder's hypnotic, uh, just driving score. He's doing some uh, like Middle Eastern almost chanting and stuff like that, inflections during it, which is odd because it comes up during Istanbul opening, and then even the vocal effects for Istanbul Blues. Yes, there's actually a blues track here with some Fairlight and synthesizers and things like that. We don't have the gated drum yet that uh, Peter and Phil would stumble upon making Peter Gabriel's third album. But there's some of that here. But the thing with Moroder's score on this, he's using pacing and synths, uh, and drum machines and things like that, and guitar when necessary too, with more synths attached to them. To especially with Chase, which is the first track, to create the emotion, get you know get your mind going, maybe get your senses going. Everything is very percussive when it needs to be. It's phased out and timed out to go with the themes of a scene. And while this doesn't go in order of the film soundtrack directly, Moroder sequenced this in a way that he could still generally tell the stories, put the cues all together into a flowing album. This is this is a masterpiece. He's the thing with Moroder is he has such a sharp intellect and mind for production, and he believed that we could use machines to essentially tell stories and drive the mood, uh, to make the connections with people, no matter how cold it may seem. And you get that throughout this whole album. The wheel, especially when the prisoners are going around in a circle and things like. As I give away the spoiler alert, the chase especially is my favorite. As you can tell, I'm unapologetically an old wrestling fan, and Chase was the song that was used by the tag team Midnight Express for the first 3 years, I want to say. And then there was TV licensing rights, and then Turner had a hand in not wanting to pay, at Moroder especially. So, for replays and broad, because they started changing some of the rules and regulations at that point. So around the time Condrey leaves, they switch to a Muzak re-recording of it, which ironically is the version most people became known. Most people came to be aware of that track or the Midnight Express team. And then Cornette, of course, would cheat and bring a cassette tape and give it to the trailer, and it would be the original from here, just to screw with them. So that's actually what got me, besides seeing the movie. Once I learned that, listening to the Cornette podcast, I was like, oh yeah, I do remember that song. Hold on, this is great. It's pretty iconic. Went and got the soundtrack. I have no shame in saying that. And, this is at a time when Moroder was still knee deep in disco, but he does explore into blues and other territories, of course. This is the guy who produced, programmed, and collaborated all the music for Donna Summer during her immortal run. And that's going to come to another point. So the guy he could do epic tracks, 10-minute plus tracks too. His thing is very much like Vangelis, as a matter of fact, more of a classical based composer, but would dive into production techniques and synths and fairlights and other stuff as well, along with his organs and his keys. Uh, Very much cutting edge, surgically precise ways of doing things. So look at the MacArthur Park medley suite. That's about 18 minutes. The very last track on the Donna Summer's live album, just before they go and do Mean Girls together, and you get Hot Stuff and the title track. No, not Mean Girls, Bad Girls. So we get some of that driving, pulsating, surgically precise medley stuff through this as well, but it's done in a way that tells the story and brings you along, gets you hooked. That's why I brought up Vangelis too, because Vangelis does a lot of that just from more of a classical standpoint. Go see the Blade Runner synth-heavy soundtrack. And the thing to remember is Moroder, again, was also a fan of the German prog movement. So Tangerine Dream, Klaus Schulze, but whereas they were using tech and progressive cosmic scheming, long form storytelling, Moroder was more about, okay, how can I cut out the fat and make a pop hit if I need to? And that's what Moroder does. And he could blend in with any band. He could produce the music, the backbeats to fit the strengths of any artist he chose to work with. Now, the reason I mention all this is because the other soundtrack he restored, you're not going to find this anymore. You're not going to find the movie. This is Moroder's restoration of Metropolis that dropped in '84. So at that point, the Metropolis had been more or less lost or cut up and everything like that. Moroder went in, liked what he saw, and said, I could probably create a movie out of this and add my own music to it and tell a different thematic storyline, or tell at least within the same way, but to make it relevant to today's audience. So he had enough money from his film scores, and Donna Summer, of course, to go in and finance his own restoration. It was the first major restoration of this film. He paid for essentially new scannings, new color tintings, splicing it and editing it together in different ways to fit his own idea of a good thematic flow. The fact that the man paid for this and self-financed it, and then proceeded to write his own new music to go with it, is astounding. You're not gonna find the Blu-ray of this anymore. It came out on Kino in 2010. I used to see it all the time at V-Stock, and then somewhere around the time right before, maybe I think it was 2015, it finally sold the one copy they had, and after that it kind of went out of print. So Kino also handles the US distribution for the now definitive, that Argentina cut that they found on 4K, and I think I got on 4K. Definitely I got the Blu-ray of it. So I think with the changing licensing fees, because it's not just Moroder you have to pay for the DVD or Blu-ray release. Again, changing court orders and for the good, and I'm glad. But instead of just paying Moroder, now they got to pay each separate artist who appears on these tracks. And then there's all these different wrangling record company deals, and I mean Sony would probably get a big cut of it now. So you're not gonna, if you find that Blu-ray from 2010, I did on like eBay and stuff like that. There is a cheap copy of it for $30, but everything else is going for 60, 80. So unless it's on Film Archive or someone plunks down and funds all the licensing rights, you're not gonna see. You're probably not going to see this again. But we'll see if it might pop up anyway. Someone will probably bootleg it. But the thing is, and I always thought this is funny because the first song on this, Moroder picked relevant stars of the time. So the first track is "Love Kills" with Freddie Mercury, and I thought Moroder always did the production for Radio Gaga, which oddly enough does use the old footage of Metropolis. Never mind the crazy costumes. And Freddie just comes out swinging with this. Of course he does. This is "Love Kills" is the one almost firebrand track on the album. You get Pat Benatar, "Here's My Heart," which was co-written, of course, not just by Moroder, but Pat did the lyrics, and Neil Giraldo co-wrote the music and played guitar. Of course he did. Third track, John Anderson from Yes. Well, recently reunited, returned to Yes. "Cage of Freedom." I love how, like I said, Moroder takes this and John Anderson, he come back. He'd also been starting to work with Vangelis. They had like maybe 2 albums at the time of Anderson and Vangelis. My favorite's the third one. I think it's the third one, Friends of Mr. Cairo. But John's entrenched in his, at this point, not only that and his solo albums, but he's doing the "It Can Happen," "Owner of a Lonely Heart," "Don't Kill the Whale" from '78. Well, he's doing the existential, the preacher, the sermon, the philosopher, with that's like a Socratic method. So Moroder, knowing that John's gonna do that more airy, uh, questioning delivery with just a little bit of bite, even though it's got that higher register, Moroder perfectly syncs the the drum beats with a bit of guitar, and he creates this very airy, still somewhat pulsing rhythm behind him, but it's more air filled. It gives more space to John to let that higher register come out, and he gets to be the prophet on the hill giving the sermon, talking about how uh, we lock ourselves away, we live dual lives, and not only the system but just how we choose to cage ourselves up. Uh, are people really your friends? Is it really right? And again, that fits in perfectly with the themes of the overall film. Anyways, most of these songs have to do with that. I can picture. I don't really know who Cycle 5 is, but "Blood from a Stone's really good. I gotta mention this. Side 2 starts off with a big single, "Here She Comes" by the uh, recently departed, last night, Bonnie Taylor. Uh, and there's a music video for that one too. And again, she had already worked. She already worked with Jim Steinman and had the big hit, "Total Eclipse of the Heart." She's gonna have "Holding Out for a Hero" a little bit later. Wait, yeah. "Total Eclipse" was '83. So around the same time, "It's a Heartache" was 81, 82. Rod Stewart does it live as a cover all the time, and he's still gonna do it. This is, I could picture "Here She Comes," just the way it's delivered, the music video. I could picture in the film, that's the scene with Brigitte Helm dancing and attracting all the men while the city starts to burn and flood beneath. It's just, you could picture, if you know the film itself without seeing this one, you can really picture lyrically and by production for each band what they're talking about, singing about, what scenes it probably goes with, even though the film be somewhat out of order. But it's every song here is pretty much a killer. Lover Boy with Destruction. Okay, so Moroder took the aspects that they like to use, you know, some tech in some of their songs, and they do bring in some blues and some heavy chugging riffs. Reno gives his uh, wide open delivery, of course. Turn Me Loose, stuff like that. A little bit of Working for the Weekend. This one, Destruction, sounds like a slightly faster version of Top of the World. Uh, much more, much more on the end of relationships and humanity and things like, instead of taking me to the top of the world. But picture that a little bit quicker. Yes, more gated drum, more more keys in between, but it's still a lover boy song. And instead of being 6 minutes, it's 4:40. So, and Mike Reno's just soaring through this whole track. It fits the emotional palette. My favorite, though, my favorite here is the Billy Squier track, "On Your Own," and and Moroder sequences in the keyboards on the downbeats, after Billy gives you that little bit of bending vocal with grit to end his phrasing and things like that. Guitar has been there. You get a little bit of a chug, but nothing steps over anything. The drums, or at least the drum machine, the gated drum sound is just, it's that hypnotic yet cold yet searching type of think of putting that 83, 84 production on In the Dark, or Lonely is the Night. They just go a little bit faster. So that track, just the lyrics, Squire's delivery, the music is just perfectly synced up in time with him. It's such a great, it's almost like a counterpoint that, like answering back in response, and it's just perfection. So this, I ended up playing this like 12 times in a row in one day. I couldn't help it. It's just so damn good. And you can find these tracks, especially if you could look on Spotify, you can find them. They are definitely on YouTube under the each individual artist's topic channels. This will be the ones, if you were to put on a playlist based on theirs, it would show up and you'd be like, the hell's that song? I've never heard that. And then you look, and this is the artwork you see. Yeah, this is almost lost in itself. But there's no bad songs on here. And it just shows you the strength, the production, and the composing skills of an actual landmark individual that completely influenced and changed the landscape of pop music for what, almost 20 years. Yeah, you know. So those three things are my soundtrack, score, whatever you want to call it. They're each one's a masterpiece in of its own right. The Jeff Wayans one's a little weird. They did a I know they did a new 5.1 or 7.1 Atmos, and a brand new, I think either Steve Wilson or Stephen W. Taylor did a remix of it as well. There's a whole box set. Phil Aston on Now Spinning Magazine did a whole review on it. I guess they wanted to get ahead of the 50th. I'm pretty sure this came out in 78. It came out, so they did this new anniversary edition, 50th, a little early, but whatever, they got it done and it's out there. Now that I've played this and I've heard it and I liked it on the first shot, I'm curious. I'm gonna go check out the new remix to see how they changed it up because now it probably won't sound nearly as you know, a little bit of mud here and there. But again, that was the tapes at the time, and to hear it now cleaned up with modern tech and tools, and I don't think they used AI on it. I'd be curious to see what parts they of this very dense soundtrack radio play that they were able to bring out versus back in the time. So those are my couple of my recent listens. I got plugged this damn computer in, and gonna go from there. We got another one with next one's gonna be on Wendy O. Williams. Yeah, not enough out there about her. See ya.